All right, everybody, welcome back to On Cycle. It's been a minute, and we know, and we don't really apologize. It's just been a minute.
Yeah, we know you've been clamoring for it, but life gets in the way.
Yeah, you know, the drum corps season is long and arduous, and as you could tell, Robbie and I have thicker beards now. And,
Yeah.
we're a little more mountain menning as we're getting into the winter months and back to like
exactly.
real life.
So we're into hibernating and everything like that.
Just for all you listeners out there, we do plan on it's going to be like an every week, every other week kind of.
Yeah, maybe when we can get them out.
Yeah. And also, too, there's been a lot of people who've reached out and said, hey, when are you guys going to do an episode about this? When are you going to do an episode about that? Reach out to us, because sometimes we're just in a lull this time this season. We're creatives. We come up with our own ideas, but we'd love to hear what you guys have to say, too.
Yeah. It gives us more ideas, and it's just fun to engage with the audience in that way.
Yep. Robbie messaged me the other day and was like, we were like, hey, man, when do we shoot another episode? I was like, I don't know. I don't have any ideas right now. And Robbie was like, what about this? I was like, that's a great idea. So here we are.
A bit.
Here we are doing our next episode. So all the normal stuff. Make sure you get down in there, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We're at 551, I think, as of the recording of this, and we're trying to get up to that 1,000 mark so that we can start earning some cash and giving out some money to next year. We'd love to be able to start earning a little bit of moolah here before the beginning
of like the drum corps season proper.
Like we'll say like the April-May time frame. I feel like as kids are moving in and like contracts are trying to be settled, and so we can give away a little bit of money. We'd love to do that. Yeah. So make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit that subscribe, share to your friends, hit us up on whatever app you're using or whatever you're doing. So, all right. So on to the good stuff. This week's episode is going to be what's going to happen in 2025.
Yeah. It's a wild speculation episode.
I can't wait to relook at this episode in 10 months, and go, what the heck were we talking about? Who knows? And so this is, I think, a fun time of year to do that, as we were watching staff people move around. Besides the troopers, they already announced what their show is going to be, because they're insane.
Unheard of.
Yeah, they're insane right now.
24-hour turnaround.
And I absolutely love it. I'm here for it. They did some movement in their staff that looks like it's going to be pretty productive for them. So, so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what me and Robbie think the next year's show might be kind of about, maybe the different directions some people are going, and maybe some placement, guesses. Just
some ideas.
Just for the hell of it, because why not? Because it's fun.
Throw some ideas around, right?
Exactly.
It's always to see, fun to predict whose momentum will increase, what will carry through, who might, lose some steam in the coming seasons.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? You want to start at the top or the bottom?
Oh, that's a great question. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
We start with the most obvious. Let's honestly, why don't we shake things up and start at the top?
Okay.
Because I think we've started at the bottom, we've built up. It makes sense. You tend to save the most competitively successful and popular groups for last, but I like the idea of maybe switching it up a bit.
So
on our top groups.
The top groups. So, I mean, obviously we're talking, Boston Bluecoats and Blue Devils, right? I think those are your three.
They're the strongest showing.
Yeah. They've been the top three the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
3 seasons.
Boston was fourth in 23.
Okay. I'm sorry. So, and then what was that? Crown in there?
Crown was third.
Third, okay.
That was very close. I keep saying this. Crown in 23. Every time I look, it was surprisingly close to getting second. It was very close to Bluecoats,
which is wild because that show was
wild to me.
Rough. Anyway,
I thought so. But again, very well executed. For that year especially.
So the 2025 season, which is crazy for me to say because that's like that's year 27 for me, and it's so long. The 2025 season, I want to talk about the Blue Devils first, because I'm very curious.
Sure. They were kind of one of the biggest shakeups, honestly. I know it's wild to be going from first and second place to third. But for them,
that
is the break of a
huge deal.
20-year streak pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is insane.
So here's my question to you, because you're a Blue Devils, fan way more than I am.
Apologist, perhaps.
Apologist.
A Blue Devils sympathizer.
Sympathizer, what are they to talk about that on 9/11? So
So he can say that he's a veteran.
Whatever, those guys. And so do they continue this year's path of maybe breaking outside of the normal Blue Devils box? Because I really liked their show this year, and I think a lot of fans appreciated them moving away from their typical jazzy kind of look at things, right?
Yeah.
And do they go back to exactly what they do every year that causes judges to swoon for them for some reason, and do that? Do they go back to that type of repertoire, or do they kind of stay progressive? I hope that they stay progressive. That is what I want.
I do too.
Yeah.
Because as much as I am a Blue Devils apologist and I really like their shows and I like them, I did think the formula was getting stale. I said that before, right? Yep. 22 and 23 from Blue Devils was not my favorite showing design-wise. And even though the show, performance-wise technically did worse than those two shows, I liked it a lot more. I thought it was more interesting. Like, there were more interesting moments. There was more interesting visual design. My gut says that they're going to continue more in that direction. Like, I don't know. I didn't...
My gut says they're going to go back to the same old Blue Devils.
I don't know. Because I'm trying to think of a time where they were in a sort of streak of like doing a similar style of show, made a change, and then immediately went back the next year.
That's the last 40 years.
When? It's
the same. What was the last year they placed third? It was like 07 or 08 or something like that. What was that year that they did that really? It was did they do Rites of Spring? It was like that Rites of Spring, like
Rewrite of Spring was 2013.
Okay, so maybe it was that.
I don't know enough of the 2000s Blue Devil shows.
Yeah, anyway,
no, I think it was 2004.
Either way, like,
Godfather Part Blue, I think is what it was.
Yeah, which is again, it's a breakaway from very jazzy. Well, that one's different, but anytime they break away from that really jazzy kind of feel and they start moving around the field, actually moving around the field a little bit more and being more creative with that idea, they tend to fall behind. And then immediately the next year, and I for all you people out there, I want to quote me on all kinds of things. Every time they've come in second or first or third, they've come back and won the following year.
Yeah.
So
especially any time in recent
because they go
history.
back to their formulaic style of, they know exactly what to do and how to do it to, basically press all the right buttons for the judges. And kudos to them for figuring it out. Because I blame the judges for it more than anything else because I
think they also like performing those kinds of shows.
I do too. Like it's their signature, right? That's like me. It's like me looking at, I don't know, the Carolina Crown and being like, being angry that they're still playing that stupid Carolina lick that they play all the time. I like that Carolina lick, so I understand why it's their thing. Yeah, it's me. The Blue Devils just get me all riled up, which is why I wanted to start there. So I just get it out of the way.
I don't know. I think there probably is a good chance that they might go back to a more tried and true method. I hope that they don't. I really don't know what their next year is going to look like.
If they don't, what do you think it's going to be? Like, crazy guess. Who cares?
I hope it. I kind of hope they almost like double down on the thing they were kind of trying out this year. I like the darker kind of both color palette and sound palette like that they went for this year. I hope they stay with that. I hope they do another sort of like dark themed show. I feel like
that'd be good.
The previous 2 years were very like artsy and colorful.
Yeah.
Like staying in that dark sort of space and playing around in it more and figuring it out more. I hope they do that.
Yeah.
Like their show this year was basically like a big inspiration for it was basically like vampires almost.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, that's the feeling. Not directly, but
but at least from an aesthetic standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. I would love to see more of that. Like
I would too, because aesthetically, I really liked their show this year. And you've known me for a while now. Like, when do I say anything good about the Blue Devils? I enjoyed the hell of their show this year.
Yeah.
It was great.
And like, I have a lot of criticisms about the design in terms of cleanliness this year for their standards.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate that it felt like they were still trying to push the envelope with new things you can do with visual design. Yeah.
And I think I said this on a couple other episodes too. They were very young this year from my understanding. And
that makes sense.
When we talked to Connor, that's what he said. Check out episode 4. Go all the way back and take a look at it.
Conversations with the Blue Devil.
Conversations with the Blue Devil. If you guys don't know that, we talked to Connor, who was the tuba section leader from the Blue Devils this past season before he went on tour, and kind of like, just gave us a little insight on the Blue Devils. So it's a fun episode to go check out. But yeah, so I think so too. I think I hope that's what they stay with. For some reason, I don't know why, Bolero sticks in my head as like a song that I would be like, that's what they're gonna do. I don't know why.
Bolero?
I woke up in a fever dream and I was like, this is Bolero. This is what's gonna be. I don't know. So if it happens, this is visual confirmation that I was right, and it's wild. So I'm the Nostradamus of drum corps if that happens. I don't know. It just felt, because it's very not, it's jazzy, but not totally jazzy. It's a big power thing that drum corps have done plenty enough times. And it's I feel like they always do something in their previous repertoire or something very Blue Devils-ish, you know, that they've heard before. You know what
They usually will, yeah.
You know what I would love? And
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do. I would love to hear him play Channel One Suite again. It's one of my favorite Blue Devils tunes.
Just go full on actual like fun jazz, sort of high energy.
Yeah, I would be behind that a little bit. Like if you're gonna be really insane about it, like give me like a true Blue Devils show like that, like the I don't know, just all their classics. That would be really fun. I'd love to watch that. You know, that'd be really neat. So that's what I think where we are with the Blue Devils. I think they're gonna come back and they're gonna be a top 3 core again, if not a top 2. They're definitely going to fight for first because they're probably angry that they didn't, you know.
Yeah, and like you said, Blue Devils has had a very solid track record of having a year where they don't win and then immediately coming back and having an extremely strong season.
Exactly.
Right after.
Yep. Which I think, and as I said, they're a young core this year, and I think they're going to come. Most of those kids will probably come back, and they'll just be absolute monsters next year.
Yeah.
So
I would be curious to see.
So which really begs the question as we move on to different cores like the Bluecoats. I don't know what their age group looked like this year. Are they going to come back and
probably a lot of age outs? I would assume most.
Yeah, I mean,
most high performing shows.
I feel like the upper 5 to 6 cores have a very good formula right now of taking in enough members that have 2 or 3 years left in their careers and enough pulling members from other drum corps, like guys that were at Madison for a year and then they were like, I'm going to go age out with the Bluecoats. You know, so you have some skill and some set that comes in. They leave but you're still left with a good core group of people that can pick up the mantle and kind of continue on with the skill set and retrain your new rookies as they come in. I feel like the Bluecoats have done that fairly well for the last couple of years, and I believe that is what the Blue Devils look at too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that they look at 18-year-old kids and go, we're going to take you because we're pretty sure you're going to stay and I'm going to get 4 seasons out of you. And Connor did that exactly. Like he made that core at 17. And then he's been there for the last 3 years. He's got 1 more year. He's going to march another year next year with the Blue Devils. He already knows he's going to.
Yeah.
So that's a skill level set that you can't just. There's some kids that are just that good, but you can't just teach that. So I think the Bluecoats come back. I think they're just as strong next year as they are this year.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I do. I think look at them last. They've been what? Two, three.
Yeah, they had a 3 in a row of second place finishes.
That's super impressive. You know, I know they're not winning every year, but they're right there.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say something similar. Like if you compare this recent season's Bluecoats championship to the 2016 championship, right? Because that's the last time they won.
Right.
It does feel very different to me.
It does. Yeah.
We've talked about. I love the Bluecoats 2016 show. And it was clearly a very strong core. But we have talked about how, they were getting second, 2 years previous mostly on GE, on really good design.
Yeah.
And kind of good enough execution. Third place the previous year with a really strong show, right? And then 2016, it's like, it felt like they were ramping up. Like they had a bunch of, the average age of the core was 19, 20, and then 21, and then everyone aged out in 2016.
Yeah,
and then they were left over with a core the next year that didn't have that same sort of skill set, right? Yeah. That's why I went with a lot of cores when they get to a championship year.
I think so too. I mean, that's what happened to Crown at 13. You look at them. They had a lot of kids that didn't come back.
And as we've noted before with 2016, it's a very strong show, and it's overall very clean. But for a championship show, it's not the cleanest, right?
No, it's not.
It was exactly as clean as it needed to be to make it generally effective enough to win that year.
Right. Last year's Bluecoats show was so clean.
It's felt very different. It's felt much more like a slow, strong, consistent build over the past, four or 5 seasons.
Yeah. And I totally agree, which is why I think they're going to come back and they're going to be a contender. I mean, they've been a contender the last 5 years, so obviously they're going to be a contender, right?
Yeah. I mean, their brass program has been amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Their visual program,
their brass writing has been amazing.
Great, yeah.
Fantastic. I think that's really what has set them aside. They're great musicians, obviously, right? But the way that I believe the top 4 or 5 cores have finally, like, Carolina has been this way for a long time, but you look at Bluecoats, the Blue Devils and Carolina Crown, and everybody else has finally looked at them and said, what are they doing to be successful? And I think they're looking at writing. I think they're looking at being stylistically, similar from year to year. So that
sort of stylistic identity.
Right.
Yeah.
So that way when they move, from year to year to year, that their members maintain a certain level of consistency from year to year that's helping them become more successful. If you look at those top 5 cores, that's really what's happening. So I don't think that the Bluecoats, the thing that's interesting about the Bluecoats is that I feel like every single year, though, they are completely different stylistically, but not from a writing approach, but from an overall design
It is so weird how every year, I feel like as I get more familiar with the shows, their distinctions stand out to me.
Right.
And yet, like, it is impressive how the Bluecoats design has shifted, because every year it feels like, oh, I see they're kind of doing the same thing but a little different.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But then you go 2 or 3 seasons and I'm like, well, this show's completely different from the one 4 years. It's like a really smart amount of like incremental change in their style.
Yeah.
I think that maintains a certain identity while still evolving and pushing the envelope of design. It's really interesting. I really like them.
So they moved obviously very far away from the very hippie design that they've had the last pretty much 3 or 4 seasons.
I think the 23 to 24 was the biggest stylistic jump they've had since I think 15 to 16 probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Do they maintain that and go to this very, I don't even know what style you would call it.
I think it's like an abstract. Honestly, it feels like a return to like the 14 to 16 style of design, but with modern moment to moment design.
I felt like last year's show was a drum corps show more than most of the shows were. And when you look at the previous 4 years, they were very much they were very much an artsy kind of like
honestly, it was like kind of like hippie style, like
but not
so
just
ever
that,
since they did a Bluecoats show, very like groovy kind of
exactly. It was very produced, if that makes sense. Like, and not that every show is not produced in some way, but it was very like production of like
they're throwing in the bells and whistles,
like a theater. It's very theateristic. This
theatrical, not theateristic. That's not a word. I love how you rolled with it. You're like, theateristic.
Theateristic, exactly, yeah. Yes, 100%.
We're coining that. I'm going to keep using theateristic sort of approach.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, big stages, voiceovers, lots of designs, sort of very showy costumes.
So, and this
multiple
year,
guard costumes.
This year, and I think a lot of corps did it, they went back to being a drum corps, right? With modern feel, because we can't go backwards in that regard. But a lot more drill, a lot more drill,
simpler props,
big hit moments, and things to help balance the prop a little bit and frame
Everyone
the stage.
was louder this year.
Yeah, everybody was just
way.
blowing down the house this year. Crazy. And I think that's I'm hoping that is the era that we're going into.
Yeah,
we're moving away from, not that there was anything wrong with that stuff, but I hope that we're moving away from that and more into those types of shows. And they're becoming more successful. So I think more corps are going to adapt.
I think hopefully what we're going to see in the ideal world is, we had this explosion of new design philosophies and design decisions you can make.
Yep.
And everyone got super excited about it because it's cool and it's new and it's novel. We explore that space for a while. All the corps get their fill of doing weird stuff and
theatrical.
What was the term? Theatristic.
Theatrical.
No, very very theatrical things. Very overly produced. Not overly
theoretical.
Theoretical.
I already forgot what it was.
And, sort of less drill, more staging moments and stuff like that. I'm hoping what's happening is that we've taken that and go, okay, all of us have gotten the chance to explore this space now. Let's take this and these new design philosophies. And now that we've gotten to see them in action, let's take what works and find the balance between them.
Yeah.
Right? Because what's new is not necessarily always what's effective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of what is new is very effective. So, what can we learn from that and combine it, right? Because,
I feel like that is exactly what they did this year.
Yep. I think a lot of corps did it, and I think Bluecoats did it the best, which is why.
And Phantom. I think Phantom was right up there with too. I mean, the last 2 seasons, they have gone back to drum corps roots.
Yeah. Which is impressive because I think a lot of their show, they're not marching as much as most other top 12 corps.
Yes.
But you kind of don't feel it as much because the writing and everything around it. Yeah, it's such a classic melt your face off drum corps feel.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. There's enough going on from a census perspective, because you have to fill the senses to a crowd, right? You have to fill them with sound. You have to fill them with, smell, taste, touch, all those things, right? Or, so you have to really like between sound and sight.
Smell-o-vision, drum corps.
I don't know. But, but I mean, you have to give them, well, for me, what drum corps smells like? It smells like the heat of the night. You know what I mean? Yeah. It smells like...
It's heat of the day. Bluecoats 2016.
It's the
Play Heat of the Day by Pat Metheny. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. I never know names of songs.
That's true. I should have known. You never know any repertoire.
Ask me what we played last year. I have no idea.
Who knows?
But it's like it does. There's a sense of sensory position for drum corps, right? That people just know and love, and it just is there. And I felt like they did enough sound wise and excitement sound wise that they could pull back slightly on the visual aspect of things and kind of do that. And I think that's why we look at Crown all those years and go, oh, holy crap, what are they doing? Because they are melding those two things, the incredible sound and what they're doing mixed with all this very high drill movement stuff. That's what's made drum corps so exciting through the 90s and 2000s and the teens. And then again, like you said, we got away from that a little bit, and now we're kind of moving back to it, and everybody is very responsive of it.
Yeah, like, I think the fans and judges.
Give it to me, right? So I think you're going to see a lot more corps go down that road. I think Carolina is going to go down that road this year. I think they're going to go back they're going to get back to their roots. They're going to go big horn line. They're going to go big drill.
I want them to do a show that's too hard for them.
Yeah.
It's too much drill.
Yeah.
And even if they drop a spot, but everyone's like, oh, they're doing something though, right? They're pushing for it. Right. I would rather see that than their current trend.
Yeah. I think I hope that they get away from the colors they've been using. I hope enough people have yelled at them and said, knock it off. Enough with the yellows and the browns and like these
weird
awful,
muted colors that just do not read.
Right. And you look at
2022. 22 and 19, beautiful color palettes that read really well on the field.
Yeah. And then there's just these weird years in there where they go back to the same color palette, and you're like, guys, it didn't work any of the other years you did it.
What are you doing here?
Look,
Bring back the cream uniforms.
Well, this is probably before you, like the Purple Pants Band was like, it was hashtag
2013, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was a huge thing because everybody's like, whoa, what the heck's going on? Like,
because the previous year, there was fully cream, right?
Yeah, they went from the cream, the all cream, I think in 2012. Yeah, 2012, they were still all queen. They're all queen. All queen. They're all cream still, and they went to that newer that purple uniform the following year, and you were like, "Holy hell!"
It pops.
Like, it's crazy. So, like it. I hope that they go back to that because that's a very sleek uniform. Which 2019, very sleek uniform.
Yeah,
it just works so much better for them. I think.
Look at how well, despite all predictions, how well Boston's uniforms looked on the field this year. And they're basically just Crown uniforms.
Yeah.
They're Crown uniforms with LEDs on the lights.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what they are. Like, they were, I think.
And it works. It pops.
There are some groups that can pull off a lot of stuff, right? Like troopers, right? When you look at their uniforms, they're just decked out, right? But that uniform goes with their identity, right?
And with the show theme.
And with the show theme. So it all kind of makes sense together, right? When you look at, even when you look at Crown 16, no, what year did they do the Relentless?
Yeah, I was going to say 16, which on its face value, very similar color palette to these past sort of 2 years. Like them.
Yeah, well, no, there was like a gray, wasn't it? It was like a gray and a black. There was the pinstripe.
It was most black.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sort of like a pinstripe. But yeah, like similar color palettes overall, but the execution was different enough that it feels completely different.
Right. But they could have gone to a uniform that year that was very much like the Troopers uniform, right? It's still Crown, but like a very like cowboy hatty kind of thing. And they didn't. They didn't go anywhere near that because it's not Carolina's style. And they were playing a Western show that would have very easily fit into that yellow and that brown and that like the last 2 years that they've been doing.
Yeah.
But why didn't they do it then? Because it didn't make any sense then. And it doesn't make any sense for them now, right? Staying away from that, from a design element, I think is going to be what's going to help them in success, right? I think they come back next year. They probably win it OT next year because they win it OT like every other damn year. And anytime they don't win and they're pretty close, they usually come back the following year and just blow the house down. So I'm very curious to see what they do. I also think they're going to have a very young core next year because a lot of the cadets kids went down there. They were age out cadets.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much done with them. And,
I would not.
I don't know.
I think Crown is one of the top 12 cores that's most at risk for continuing to drop overall.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Because I think people just after 2 years of it, right? I think after like 23, the design was all right, but execution was very high. People were like, okay, yeah, I still
Yeah.
Crown has its off years sometimes, right? So we come back after 2 years in a row of that and dropping more and dropping to 5th place for a show that, I just don't think was garnering that much hype during the season. I would not be surprised if
I could see them coming back up to 4th place, depending on what Phantom does. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Phantom has had 2 bangers back to back.
I think Phantom.
I don't know. I mean, so here's one thing.
I think it's really hard to say where Phantom's gonna go and what they're gonna do.
There's 2 things. So before I'll finish up with Crown, I hope they do a story show.
I hope they figure out how to do a story show again.
But I don't think again, yes, because they've had some really great story shows. And I say, Relentless is one of my top 5 favorite drum shows.
Inferno right before that, classic story show.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly. Great. Right. They do story shows really, really, really well. I mean, even last year when they or 2 years ago now when they did the story show because it was the Camelot thing or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was 23.
Like it did really well. And
again,
it was just it was just an odd design kind of feel.
Yeah, again, it's like I don't think it got that many people excited.
Yeah, no, I think it was just like
Crown.
It was a good
like
I don't know. There's just something missing from it, whatever it was. And honestly, I really do believe it's a color thing. For me personally, I watch them and I just
I think it
just looks.
I think it's an overall design. I think it's an overall lack of design vision.
I think they're going to fix it this year. I have all the confidence that they're. And when I say fix it, what I mean is fix it for what I would like to see. I
think it's what most people would like to see, and what even the judges would like to see. And you saw, Crown was playing very well. Their brass was doing very well, but they didn't. I think the judges just weren't. If you have a show that's boring and that the judges don't, that doesn't get the judges hooked, they're not going to give you credit because part of the judging process is always efficacy.
I'm curious to see too, because this is like we don't know too much about staff. I don't follow that too closely, but I pay attention to it as someone.
We've seen some changes.
They just picked up, and I don't know if it's the same guy. So internet, correct me if I'm wrong out there. The guy that was at Madison last year, that I don't know if he was the guy that stayed there or if, not Madison. I'm sorry, the Cavaliers. Guy was the Cavaliers, and I don't know if he was the guy that was like fired mid-season or whatever the case may be. I think he's the same guy that won them the Sanford the year before. Crown just picked him up. And I'm not a drum guy, so I could be totally wrong.
For the drums?
I know that their new drum caption head is somebody from Cavaliers. That's where he was in the last year or two. So they've had really great drum lines the last couple of years, at least 2 years ago anyway now. So did they pick up that guy or somebody else? But they're picking up somebody that's coming from a little bit of a really good program and coming down there and going, hey, here's our new drum guy. We're going to give him a shot. Let's see what he does. Let's see what kind of vibe he brings and all that kind of stuff. And is it going to fit in with the Crown? Because anytime you move staff, that's always the biggest issue is, does that staff fit with the current staff? That's always a problem, right?
Yeah.
It's always the issue. And trying to figure out if that works or not. Because there's been a lot of displaced with the cadets going away 2 years ago, there's been a lot of displaced staff members that have been floating around. Yeah. Caption heads and different things that have gone places and they're kind of tearing some stuff up, which when we get down to the troopers, like that's what happened to their visual staff. They picked up the guy that was the visual caption head, I think, for cadets 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever last year they marched. Okay. So like there's some cadet people going down there and there's other things. So I'm very curious to see, who's beefing up some of their people. So I think the Crown moves up. I think the Crown moves up a spot. I think that Phantom can stay in that spot and maybe even crest into 3rd place.
Maybe there's a chance.
It's got to be a banger show like it was this year. It has to be that because you're going to have a lot of kids going out to audition.
So I was about to say, I think there's a chance they might keep up the climb.
The talent is going to go there, right? But we talk about this all the time. Like the talent has been going to Bluecoats. The talent always goes to the Blue Devils, right? But can you design a show, right? Phantom has been kind of climbing because of these crazy good shows. They're just fun, exciting drum corps shows. Will they sustain that? Or will they pull away from it? Because a lot of corps do that. They get 2 or 3 years of like a really cool stylistic show or like a very power. And they're like, oh, we're going to do Les Miserables. Well, okay, that's a pretty wide left turn you just made there from the last couple of shows. And you have kids that come out there and they go, I wanted to, play what we played last year, because that's what I want to do.
This is cool. Because what got me hooked.
And you're what the heck, what's going on? So it's a weird, which is, again, I always say that's why the Blue Devils keep getting kids that come back every single year or kids that go out there.
They know what they're getting.
They know exactly what they're getting. So when you go, this is what I want to play. and you get out there, you're not heartbroken by it. So that also means you're going to have people that are going to come back the following year because you got exactly what you asked for, right?
Yeah.
Which is another thing we talk about in our preparing for drum corps show, right? Do your research, and figure out where you want to go and what you want to do. Like that's why those corps are successful, because kids look at them and go, "That's what I want to do. That's the kind of stuff I want to do." So
that's the kind of show I want to march.
Yeah, right? So I'm going to go there. And when you go there and you don't give them that, they don't come back.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but anyway, so I think you're right. I think Phantom just has to have a show like they did last year.
Yeah,
I think their color palette stays the same. I'm really happy with the white and black / silvery kind of look.
It's so Phantom. Good. It's so effective.
Yeah, it's so good.
I think they know what they're doing. I like, honestly, like I said, last year 23's show was one of my favorite design shows that year.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And they managed to come out with a better one, right? Yeah. And a better performed one as well.
Yep.
Like, I don't think there's anything. I don't think that. Yeah, and I don't think that group was chock full of age outs any more than any other group. Hell, it might be one of the. They're probably the youngest overall of the top 4.
Yeah, right? I would venture to guess that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, before we go, because we're cruising down, we forgot about Boston.
We didn't even mention Boston.
Yeah.
I would be curious to see where they go next year. I don't know if they have a ton of age outs this year.
I have no idea.
Think so. I didn't hear they did. I think they're just got a we've been strong program.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for years now, or for the last a bunch of episodes. Like, it's so much of a design thing, right? Boston's design has been kind of like Crown-esque in the early teens, the late teens. It's like every year you're like, we have no idea where this is going, right? When you go from, the Eagles MC squared to, what are they doing with the space show?
Out of this world.
Yeah, out of this world. Feel like just and then they did a Western, and then they did Dante's Inferno. We were like, what is happening? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's like story show, but each time the story is going to be wildly different.
Yeah,
tone.
Exactly. I feel like that's what Boston has kind of become, because 2 years ago they did the White Whale, which was I loved that show.
Very cool show.
Very cool show. Very story-esque and driven.
Yeah,
and then
again,
last
very
year
different. Yeah.
Like what
they did, like it seemed like they were gonna try and be like the good story core, because they did
they did SOS, and then they did Goliath.
Yeah, again, 2 good story shows. Yep. What was it? 22 was it was
it starts with an I.
Garden of Eden. Oh my God, what is it? Paradise Lost.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what biblical story was it? Paradise Lost. Another like classic sort of story driven show, and then very story driven show with White Whale.
Yeah,
and then they were like, no story.
Yeah,
glitch. Yeah, an idea. Like, but then it's super effective.
It was
right?
great. It was a great show. Yeah, it took me. I said this before. Glitch is one of my favorite shows to go back and rewatch of the season.
It's very fun
because it's such a fun show, and I feel like every time I watch it, I see something different that I didn't see before, and I love shows like that.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive whenever a core is able to do really well for themselves. I think they're easily the strongest performance wise and competitive wise they've had. I know they tied for second in 22, but I think this is a much stronger show.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's their highest scoring show of all time.
Yeah, and
the only time they've ever beat the Blue Devils,
right?
Exactly. And they're the lone victor at second place. Victor, they're the lone placeholder. So yeah, I mean, Gino's still up there. He's coming back, and as far as I know, I don't think none of their staff has changed yet. So as far as I know, everybody's going to be back. Their color guard is an absolute, crazy good. So I think they're going to stay there. So
I remember what I was going to say. Their drum staff is great and was really strong. I mean, they had a shot at Sanford, so I'm sure they're going to stay strong. Their horn line sounded better than ever for them. I feel like they're going to
win one of the trophies next year. That's not color guard.
Yeah, and I think there's a shot they could also. I mean, I think they're a first place contender next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's between the current top 3. I don't think any of them are going to see any major drops out of the top 3. More than likely.
No, I don't see that. They've been holding that spot for a while.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that I appreciate about Boston's show this year, that I feel like they finally figured it out. They finally figured out how to have a show that is gimmicky at points, but doesn't feel like it still feels maturely designed.
There you go. Yes,
like they're still having fun and they're still doing sort of gimmicks, but they're also still innovating in the visual design space. A lot of their visual designs are weird, but like unique and difficult to pull off, right? The whole sort of like swishing back and forth thing that they open with like the people that go different ways because they're glitching, but then match up like the move later is such a cool design, all the little like design moments you see, like things that they do with their horns, things that like small groups will do after they finish playing a feature. It's really cool, and it's stuff that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that you need to do if you want, honestly, if you want to win a championship. That's what you have to be doing. You have to be pushing the activity a little bit.
Yeah. It felt very much like they gave the opportunity for the members to embrace the concept and kind of like write their own stuff to some extent. You know what I mean? Or maybe even to a little bit of a higher extent, some of the lower level staff members, you know, your cleaners, going out there and go, put something in right there, and just let them go.
It felt like it was
very sporadic.
Yeah,
which is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. Which works for that show, but it's also it works when everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
So that when one person who's like lower in the design hierarchy puts something in, the main person comes in, sees and goes, oh yeah, that fits. Cool.
Yep.
Right? And not going, hey, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's we're changing that. And then you waste time and cleaning time, right?
Yep.
Changing it out because there's not a unified vision.
Yep, exactly. And I feel like
what happened for the entire third movement of our 2017 show, The Blue Knights, was just everyone being like, this movement is this. And then someone else being like, I think this movement is about this idea over here. And it's like, those are two completely different ideas. And now it's about social media bad or something.
Yeah, whatever.
And then that ends up being the least effective part of the show, right?
Yeah.
When you don't have a cohesive design. So they really felt like they had figured out the design this year. And I want to see them hold on and keep on ramping up.
My prediction for them for next year is I think they're second or first. I think they could. It's going to be design heavy, and I'll watch the first show next year, and I'll make my judgment call on that day. And it'll be another episode we do. But I think that they win. I think they're going to win an OT next year. That's my
really.
Yeah, I think they're going to win a brass.
They've had very strong brass. Past couple of years.
I think they're so close to figuring it out that I think that they win an OT next year.
Interesting.
I want to say
I think
Sanford.
they're going to win a Sanford before.
I don't know.
They were in first place for a while this year.
I know, but
whereas with brass, they were more hovering around like third or more likely fourth.
Yeah, I think that the show this year gave them a much better opportunity from a percussion standpoint.
That makes sense.
To showcase a little bit more, and depending on what they do next year, maybe that's the case. But usually, you don't have back-to-back years where you're doing heavy. Percussive, like a percussion opener mixed with all this other stuff. They had the turntable like mix in there, which all made sense. So it was like I just don't think they have it there. So anyway, I think we go as we keep moving through everything.
Speaking of strong drum lines, what do you think SCV is going to look like next year?
Good question. I totally forgot. I was going to skip over them.
I have no idea. They had a really cool show this year.
I think they stay with minimalistic props. I think everybody.
It worked for them.
I think, well, here's the thing, right? Anytime you have, because I still do, but even in the world of drum corps, I do believe that social media and people talking have a say on how people do things.
Yeah.
Right? So I think everybody was very, very happy to, one, see them come back this year, and two, see them develop a show that was entertaining, that was still worked. They were a top
still
six.
Modern.
They were still in the top half of the drum corps in top 12. They were sixth place this year, and they had no props, right?
Yeah.
And it just showcases, hey, look, you can be successful. And also, I think you look at Bluecoats. They had a lot of props technically, but they weren't like insane props like Crown's prop was.
Very minimal props. I mean, literally the simplest prop in drum corps. Right? It's a roll. It's a stage that moves around. It's a square stage that moves around.
Yeah, super simple, right? So I think that you're going to see. I think that next year SCV does a similar idea. They stay very minimalistic with their props because they're still trying to recover financially and they're not trying to go backwards from what they did. So it's a much cheaper way of going.
I would not be surprised if for the next few years, even when they get more stable financial footing, they are very fiscally conscious.
Yeah, and as they should be, really, as every drum corps should be. Yeah, absolutely. There are some that are better off than others, but that's,
not everyone has bingo halls that bring in hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever.
I told you I was talking to my buddy who works at or worked with and helped the Bluecoats in the back end. You know that their Subi stand pulls in $500,000 a year.
Jesus,
that is ridiculous.
It's not that surprising.
It's like 485,000 or something like that. It's like their 2 years. Tell me 2 years ago was their record, and they're already this past year they were set to beat it. I don't know if they did or not, but I mean it's like crazy amounts of money.
I'm sure
which makes total sense.
Insane amounts. Yeah, I mean
insane amounts of money.
They're the best. They're the best marketers in all
and
of.
they have the best merch too. They really do. Like there's some really great stuff. So, but anyway, I digress. I think they're going to stay that way. I would love to see them go story mode. I mean, they have
SCV?
they have done some really iconic storyline shows over the years, right?
Yeah.
They haven't done one in a while, right? 18 wasn't really a story show.
I think 18 was
18 was a
pretty story show. I mean, it was Babylon. It's the story of Babylon, right? But it's also it's
very
minimal story. It's very just like, it's almost like doing like a hero cycle show.
Yeah.
It's more about the idea of the structure of a story than a super specific story itself.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Yeah. Or maybe story is the wrong word I want to use. Maybe I want to use musical. They are like, they've done Phantom a bunch of times.
They do have
they've
very
done
famous
Les Mis
shows.
a few times. Like they've done some really, and those are some of the most iconic SCV shows that are out there. And besides Babylon or
which is a very different feel for most of their iconic shows.
Yeah, it was very different. But I think they tried to stay in that genre and do Nirvana, and that was rough. And then
and this year they did a similar feeling thing, but just more effective.
Yeah, which is fine, because they were coming back. They're trying to figure out what was going on, right? I think they're going to continue that. They won a Sanford, so you're going to have like I said before, they're going to have the drum line.
The drum staff probably. Yeah,
I see them winning it again next year personally.
Yeah,
you came back from the Doom, right? You didn't even have an opportunity to take on really like vets, and maybe there was one or two vets that were like SCV, marched someplace else and came back to SCV for that year. I was
surprised if there were a couple of them.
Maybe there's probably a few, but the drum line is so small to begin with. You're not going to have that many.
Yeah, they're going to have 13 people because that's almost the whole drum line.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not going to have a ton of those people. So those people, and if they did come back, those people are aged out. So you had a very young line last year, a very young SCV line to the core, with their staff and everything else, and they still won. So
yeah.
And here we go. So here you go. Like they didn't even falter a little bit.
Keep up.
They didn't falter a little bit. They're going to come back. I think they're going to win the Sanford again next year.
Yeah. There's a good chance. They have a very good shot at.
Yeah.
I would love to see. I just want to see a mix up. I'd love to see Boston or Coats.
I would too. I would love to see that, but also
I think
be better.
It's funny you were saying going back to like musical roots and whatnot, because I would love to see SCV shake up the design philosophy a little bit. And even stay with their more very modern feeling design in terms of like how they're moving and how they look and the color palette and stuff. I'd love to see them do a twist on a classic themed SCV show.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Right?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Like, here's this sort of very familiar theme, but we're gonna turn it on its head and make it very modern. Yeah, very forward-thinking design sort of philosophy. I think that'd be cool. I think that would win a lot of people over as well. Yeah. I love it whenever Core does the whole like, hey, we can do both. Right.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think like, I don't say you need to pander to fans. I think that's one of the things that design artists in the activity, they get so hoity-toity about, like their visions and what's going to happen. And I want to use a single thread of grass to inspire my entire life. Like, okay, good for you, man. Also, don't forget, these drum corps fans are some of the most loyal and long-lasting fans on the planet. And they want to see familiarity, but they want to see innovation, right? So you want to see good stuff, but you also have to stay true to the activity. Yeah. In the truest sense of it. Like remember when everybody started like, vocalists came out and everybody started singing and going bonkers and everybody was like, okay, it was cool for a year. Can we please stop?
Can we
like Cadets, whatever, a bunch of
2017.
It's such okay, calm
Still
down.
haven't watched that show.
Yeah.
I'm salty that beat us.
That's my point. It's like, but everybody pulled away from it because it's not drum corps, right? And then a lot of people were doing all those voiceovers, we're like, and today we did the thing. The only person who's done it recently that I really enjoyed was Bluecoats in 22. Yeah. Even the Garden of Love, and this is like, oh my God, I was going to shoot myself every single time I heard that. I'm like, it's so overly produced and it's just not.
I still liked it. I like that show more than you, I think.
I get it. It's theatrical, right? And I understand that. And
but
that's
it's kind of like,
vibe.
All right, enough.
Yeah. But let's go back to drum
corps.
Which
I think they got
saying.
because zero voiceovers.
Yeah, there wasn't anything really this year.
I think honestly, I was surprised just overwhelmingly very minimal voiceovers this year.
Yep, because
I think people responded well. I mean, so
everybody says this is one of the best years of drum corps they've seen in years.
Yeah, I mean, like Bluecoats, no voiceovers. Boston, like very small, very like small samples, but also it's more like samples rather than vocals.
Those were necessary, I feel like, for the show.
Exactly, and it fit in, and no one questioned it. Right?
Exactly.
Blue Devils, pretty much nothing. Right, even though they had a decent amount of like at least vocals in previous years. Pretty much nothing this year.
Phantom, there was nothing.
Phantom, they had a woman singing at a certain point, but again, like, didn't really feel like a vocal. It felt like just a supplement to
what was going on,
to the musical aspect, right? Very minimal vocals and voiceovers.
Yeah. I hope
almost no narration.
I hope that trend stays. There was a lot of narration at the beginning of the Blue Star show, but then it was like very little as the show went on, which I was okay with. I was like, okay, you're setting a stage. I'm okay with a narrator setting a stage, you know what I mean, and then going away from it. It's like our show in 22. Ugh, that little closing thing that they put in there. So we had a bad stretch of having really bad narration. Stuck into shows. It's just narration is the friggin' worst. It's just not necessary.
I think it works when you base your show around it. Like I think that's why Coats 22 and I think to an extent 23 worked. It's because they built the show concept around a poem. Basically.
Right.
Well, so it felt integral to it. It does not. Different. And I can say this because I've been a part of multiple drum corps now that I've done this. Almost all the time when you add a vocal after the fact, when it was not there from the beginning, it's usually pretty bad.
Yeah, right. Because it's some weird filler thing that they're like.
Yeah, and usually it's an attempt at a Band-Aid. Usually it's going, something isn't connecting. So instead of changing part of the musical or visual design, we're just going to go, hey, this is the show theme. Do you get it?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the show theme.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I felt like,
oh my God, the narration we had in 2017, not to rag on the third movement or fourth or whatever of our ballad in 2017, but it was the last thing we did for it was stick a voiceover about how likes and comments are bad or something. And I was like, really, guys, this is where we've ended up. It's just the design team in that one pocket. The rest of the show was pretty strong. In that one pocket, they were just floundering. And when you try and stick a visual, like at a certain point, just take it out and let the music speak for itself.
You know, it's funny is that anytime you like, and this is the one like genre that it doesn't like affect people and what they do, which is weird. But it's like, if you look at any shows that you make fun of, right? Because they're like, oh my God, like for real guys, it's always that stuff. You know, how many times people walk around the sailboat, you know, it's like, because it's
which so, again, an extremely beloved show, but a lot of those vocal moments were kind of silly.
What are you doing? You know, like it's just, and it's, I get it. You're exploring the space. You know what I mean? You're yes-anding. You know what I mean? You're exploring the space and doing your thing. And I totally get it. But it's just, we did that. We explored. Let's stop exploring.
And I think,
you know,
I think more corps figured out with any kind of sound or visual that you're going to work in, right? Drum corps is a music and motion art form. When the voiceovers or even when a piece of your visual palette does not fit into the music of it, if it is not introduced musically, it doesn't work. Right? It sticks out and people notice it and they're taken out of the moment. Right. Whereas the most successful vocals are the ones that have fit it into the music, and they've made it a part of the music instead of a thing that's like sitting on top of the music.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. They made it a part of the arrangement, right? A part of the composition rather than an afterthought, right? A sticker.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with it, and I think that's been a noticed thing in the community for years, and people have just kind of shied away from it. And have gone, okay, we're gonna write a little bit better, because it's easy to just go fix and press and have one guy press a button rather than actually rewriting drill or rewriting, you know, a brass book or anything else to fix those things. So I hope that that's the case. You know.
I think we'll see. We saw so many corps found success in departing from that. This year, I think we'll see a continued step in those directions.
And I do. I think it's when you look at and you ask fans, because I do think, again, like I said, like you should be listening to what the people want. You know, it's not just a judging thing.
You know? Like, you know, I get, like you said, I think there's a general there can be disconnects between the drum corps population at large and the designers, because the designers are such a smaller subset, just number wise. There's that many.
Do none
people
of them
designing.
go on any social media platform
Yeah.
or
Well, I'm saying
listen to
sometimes,
anybody?
and,
like
sometimes I get it because you can't have everything be dictated by audience feedback.
no, you can't. Absolutely.
You have to have some level of the person in charge has to have an artistic vision, and they have to at times be able to stick to their guns and say, "No, this is my vision that I want to see."
Yeah,
but
I agree
at the
with
same time, you are making art for an audience.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But you're making art for the drum corps audience in general that may comprise of future members, right, and people that support you, and you're making them for the audience of the judging community that is going to adjudicate and score. So listening to some feedback, it's all about a balance, because sometimes it can distract from your artistic vision, but sometimes it can tell you where your artistic vision needs a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's not a surprise that pretty much, with the exception of some Blue Devils shows, because some people have beef with them. I think overwhelmingly what you see across the activity, and even with a lot of Blue Devil shows,
Don't yell at me.
what you see across the activity is usually the most popular shows are the most competitively successful ones, and the ones that stand the design test of time by living in people's memories for years after.
Right. So to that, I'll say number one, don't you ever raise your voice to me again. Okay. No, but listen, I totally agree with everything you just said, and it is really. I have said this for years. It's the internal ego, and not necessarily in a negative way. Just the vibe of designers to go like this. This
partially
is
necessary.
because you have to have it, right. This is my thing. This is what I'm doing.
It can't be designed by committee, because then most of the time that will suck.
I mean, I think you can design by committee, but you definitely have to have somebody to veto. There's got to be an overall
You have to have
person.
someone who's
that's staying true to what
the
their
guy
idea is.
in charge,
Right.
right?
We have that already.
neutral
We
sense.
know our guy in charge. He has his vision, but he does design by committee.
Yeah,
And he does
you
ask, and
delegate,
he goes through,
right?
you delegate those things out, and he goes, okay, that's great. I love that. Now I'm going to take what you gave me, and I'm going to fit it into my vision as well as my vision, needs to be fit in.
Exactly.
It's all because it is a creative. It's a collective.
It's a collective. Creative
process, right? So, and I think most drum corps do that. So I think SCV will,
as we bring it back into this extremely long tangent that we've taken.
Just to turn around here. As SCV, I think
But
they're
still,
fine.
it's predictions for the overall flow of next year, right?
Yeah.
It's still on brand. So stay out of the comments when you're like, oh, these guys with their tangents. This is what you're here for.
Yeah.
Okay?
You wouldn't have subscribed if you didn't like tangents, because that's all we do. Mandarins.
Yeah. Mandarins, I think there's a good chance they'll either. It's really hard to talk about movements because honestly, I think, with the exception of maybe, I think Crown and Cavies had more struggle years this year in terms of the top 12. Everyone else, it's like
everybody was right where they probably should be.
Yeah, everyone's right where they should be, and I think setting themselves up for really good growth.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to say. Yeah. Obviously, I'm sure a few cores will drop. Right. There's no way all of it. I mean, I would love to see if all of them just get way better, but it's so hard to talk about
third place.
It's so hard to talk about movement in terms of placement. But I think Mandarins will have a very strong chance of maintaining or even being a little better than they were last year if they keep it up with the design.
I like their design this year. I liked everything about them. Like I told you, they had some weak. I think their percussion was their weakest section this year.
I think so.
I think that's what they
score-wise.
Yeah, I think they were in 10th place or something like that. I don't know. I have to go back and relook. But they were.
I don't think they were that far off, but they were maybe one or two places.
They were good. So it's the same thing. Like you do have to have the talent, you do have to have those things, but you have to have good design. We saw that from Mandarins in 2023. Right, great design, incredible design. Right, yeah. And a fan favorite, awesome show. Can you come up with another one of those, right? To keep climbing, because I do feel like when you're in that 7 to 10 or 7 to 11 place, you have to come up with bangers every single year.
You got to do something that makes you stand out from the crowd
every single year.
It's hard,
yeah, and because you have to build. Like you were saying, like the drum corps has fans, right? And there's potential kids watching those shows, going, "Oh, blah blah blah. That's where I want to go. Oh, I love this. I fall in love with this drum corps and do those things, right?" And if you're not creating that year after year after year for some of those younger, we'll call them younger corps, but some of the corps are in those lower marketplaces. They are. You're not going to be able to figure out how to grow because you're not going to get the talent in, right? and you're not going to figure that out. So I think that Mandarins need to come out next year with a really good show, something that's really, again, very innovative, but very on brand for them, and very. It's just gonna have to be kicked very much like they did in 23, or like Phantom's been doing the last couple of years. I think they need to come in and just blow the house down with a really great drum corps show that's very Mandarinsy, and
so
sell themselves into that position for the next couple of years.
That's what I was going to ask. Is what do you think they're going to try with design? You think they sort of found a new design pockets? What they even do in 22?
Oh my god, I don't remember.
I can't remember. Oh my god.
I have no idea. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. I was not on the Mandarins train until 23.
Yeah, I think most people were kind of like. I think Mandarins came in. They had a couple of really cool shows that solidified them as a finalist core.
Yeah,
and then they kind of flew under the radar. Did the normal thing. They did the usual bottom of the top 12, like good shows. Yeah. And then they got on everyone's radar in 23.
I mean, and they're a relatively young drum corps too. They're not that old. Yeah, they're not that old. They feel very much to me like Blue Knights felt to me in the early 2000s. They were like this 12th, 11th place core. They had a couple good shows, and then I was like, oh, okay, and then they were like hovering up in that low 7, 6, 8 position right there for a while. And then they just, I don't know what happened to them, because I stopped paying attention to them because they didn't excite me anymore,
Yeah, I think,
and that's what I mean.
So much stuff changed around.
When you're in that area, you've got to come up with something exciting. So I think that they stay. I think they stay brass heavy again with whatever they decide to do. I think that's going to be their focus, because that's been the best part of their drum corps the last few years.
I mean, do you think they're going to stay with this sort of like almost like jazzy or like sort of soulful kind of feel that they've been going for the last
I think
2 years?
I think that's kind of a little on brand for them right now. I think that's kind of what they've created for
I feel
themselves.
Like they would, if I was them, I would be worried about departing too much from that when they're in a very precarious growth position.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think
they got to keep fighting.
I think they need to stay very, very on brand. Whatever their design brand concept is when they're in their homes talking about what they're going to do, whatever that terminology is they use for themselves. I think they need to stay on that terminology, because you can't be somebody like the Bluecoats that just goes wildly left field and right field, crazy things, because you're not quite there yet. You're not that.
And also
thing.
Bluecoats' general design is they've arguably the best design overall in DCI.
So you can
they can really dip a toe into a lot of weird places and still come out on top. Yep. It's a lot harder for pretty much anyone else to do that, just because it's hard to do in general.
Yep. Yeah. It's very
how
difficult,
many extremely talented artists have tried to step into another genre and found rocky footing, because even though they're very talented, it's hard to switch genres. We can't all be the Beatles, right? And bounce around in genres.
Let's talk about the real tragedy that's going on right now in the music world. Why did Beyonce not get invited to the Country Music Awards this year? Okay. That's really, we're talking about dipping toes into other genres.
My prediction is that Mandarins is going to do a Beyonce show next year.
So
that would kind of rule,
right out of nowhere. Yeah, sure. I don't know, man. I think they do. I think they stay in that jazzy world. I would love to see them go. I would love to see them go kind of in the way that Crossman went this year, but in a much better way, because Crossman's show was so rough. But
but so much good going for it, but there were so many design choices.
There was a lot of really cool throwbacks. Like I think it's they're at the age now where they could revisit some of their older shows, the classics of them,
and kind of do like what is it, like the elements or the seasons, whatever the '92 show was.
You know what I just thought of? This is a great Mandarins. If you're listening, listen. All right. I would love to see them do the Mandarins like mascot thing is they're the dragons, right? That's their thing, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see them do like a very Oriental type show. Is it or Chinese, whatever you call it? There's something from the Orient. I'm aging myself
in general,
but like a dragon of the West kind of feel, too. Like maybe
pretty cool,
right? Very maybe like Huns and things. That's very off brand for what, and it's completely not away from what I just said they should do. But I was like, that's a cool ass idea.
I mean, that would also be harkening back to their roots, because I think Mandarin started as basically a Southeastern Asian population drum corps.
Right. Yeah. So that's why
they're not that as much anymore, but they're still a California core. Yeah. And that's generally, they still, I'm sure, got some of that population, some of that representation as a part of them. It would be a cool,
kind of a neat little thing,
sort of origins. It could be
like a throwback show.
Could be neat.
Really, really neat. Kind of like Crown did or tried to do again in 3, with their like, crown and king,
Yeah.
it felt very much like there's your brand. Like it doesn't have to be old school them, but like here's a brand that we have.
It's very much like Crown's doing a show about a king. You get it?
Yeah, get it? Yeah, exactly. Like almost a little too on the nose.
I want Boston to do a Goodwill Hunting show. That's what I want them to do.
It just says applesauce in the middle.
They're just swearing the whole time. And judges are like, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can drop the F-bomb that many times in a voiceover.
I don't think, we're going for Wolf of Wall Street type stuff here. Yeah, right. That'd be wild, right?
Yeah.
I really think, what I think so they're right around there. The two groups under them, Colts and Blue Stars, I think that they are so close.
I think they're eyeballing.
Specifically the Colts. I think that they are so close to moving up into that 6th or 7th place position. Right?
I think Blue Stars potentially, as we said, very strong horn line, especially from.
Yes, very strong.
I would say Stars and Colts. This is a very great year for horn lines in general.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they're both. I think Blue Stars fixes some of their design issues that they have and fire their costume guy.
Fire that costume guy. Or just maybe not the costume guy, whoever they're ordering their costumes from. Because their costumes probably were like good in design and they were just like.
I don't think that it's screen printed. I don't think.
That's what I mean. Like imagine if that was designed by like a good designer. I don't know, like Fruhoffen or whatever those companies are out there. Like they wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? It would have been more of like an actual drum corps uniform that we see nowadays.
But I think Colts and Blue Stars are both in similar positions. Right?
They are ripe, man. They're
really trying to. I mean, Colts I think is a little hungrier because they're trying to climb. More, and they've got that sort of like clawing up the position momentum.
Yeah.
Whereas Blue Stars is more like they've wavered a little bit. They've gone back and forth, and I think it's hard for Colts to build momentum that way, but it's still doable. I mean, look at Phantom, right?
Yeah.
I think both of them are going to be in similar positions of like, I think they're going to try and probably stay in the sort of identities that they found the previous couple of years in the last season and try and like capitalize on that a bit.
I think that they're having success in the membership field more than anything else. I've talked to kids who have marched there.
More and more corps, that's true for almost all the corps. They're just figuring out how to treat people.
They are the first corps that those two corps are, I think, very much the two corps that kids who are 17, 18 years old, seniors in high school, maybe first year of college, who are like, I want to march drum corps and I want to do it at the Bluecoats, but I'm not good enough to be there. But they're very, very good, right? So they look at Blue Stars and Colts. They look at Blue Stars and Colts and go, I'm going to go audition there. So those two corps are getting really, really high quality members who have ambition for bigger and better things. And anytime you have that, I think you just have a more participation. And then when they get there, they're like, oh, these people treat me great. This is a really great organization to be a part of. I'm really happy here. Then they've been holding on to them. I really think that's what's been happening to the Colts the last couple of years. That's why they've been climbing, is that you had a lot of kids go there. They were a 12th, 11th place corps, whatever it is. And then they put up some really cool shows, made it challenging, but they made it a really great member experience. And then rather than leaving to go to a great, to go try to win or do whatever they're going to do, a lot of those kids just stayed.
Yeah,
and
they stuck around and were like, I want to help this corps grow more.
Building programs, I mean, this through quality experiences. And that is what I think their biggest strength is right now, those two corps. I've really enjoyed the Colts design the last few years. It's been challenging while still being achievable. But just on the very end of achievable. You know what I mean?
I think
which is what they need, right?
A good place to be, and also just more fun place for the activity to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Push your members, you know?
Yeah. So I think they're going to do good.
So that usually ends up with is, you do a show that's maybe a little too hard for your members, but if you do it right and you cultivate it like you've been talking about, suddenly next year everyone's way stronger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the way it works. That's the only way that you build and get stronger, right? So I think Colts, they come out. I would love to see them come out with another story show. The show they did 2 years ago, with all the street signs and going home and all that kind of good stuff. I really liked that show. Yeah, I thought it was very on brand for the Colts. It was very
they've been doing this weird kind of like middle America. Theme sort of thing.
Yeah, it feels very country.
It feels like it should not be very effective. Like I would not be that interested in it all. And yet every time I'm like, this is a good show.
Yeah, I like this
solid show. I mean, good design is good design.
Right, and it's not just the design too. Well, it is design, obviously, but it's very drum corps.
Yep.
You know, it's just a drum. It's not, there's not gimmicky. It's not all kinds of weird stuff.
What
and
is
everything
more
else.
drum corps for those of us that have been on tour than just big stretches of nothingness as you tour through the middle of America?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just they're just shows that people that can watch and go, oh, wow, that was really, you know, because they're the people who are coming at the early part of the show because they usually go on first or, you know, whatever, you know, close to first. And I go, wow, that's a really, really fun show.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed that, you know, quite a bit. So I think Stars, they'll do the same thing. They've had some really interesting shows over the last couple of, like the last 5 to 10 years. Some that I'm like really, really, really enjoyed. And then they have
they're
some
getting
that are
back
like,
to the place that they were in like the 1819 design era.
Yeah. Was it 17 that they did I always ask this question. Is it 17 they did the Big Mountain? So the Mountain
19.
Show? 19. I love that show. It's one of my favorite
Great
shows.
show.
It's a great
Lots
show.
of movie and playing their whole inside. Awesome.
Yeah, correct. A design element, like
And
costuming was
they're
incredible.
getting
you know?
back to that.
I hope so.
Bit.
Yeah,
think so.
because I think that they will. You know, as far I haven't talked to Adam directly, but I was messaging him when he marched baritone there last year, and he said he had a pretty solid experience out there, so it was great. You know, so same thing.
I would say it's for interest of time. I think we got 3 more chords left to talk about in the top 12. Troopers.
So,
I think they're gonna.
I think they move up.
Personally,
Their visual was the one thing that I think has been holding them back for the last couple of years. That and their guard, I think their guard got significantly better this year. I think they're only going to get better. I think putting out their show concept so early and going, this is what we're doing, guys.
Yeah.
Because everybody, this is what we're just talking about, all this stuff, right? Is building a love for a certain thing. You've had 2 seasons now, even 3 really, if you go back to the oil rig year, right? Which
definitely feels like an evolution of that.
Right, exactly. And so now you have 3 years of kids who are 13, 14, 15, 16, you know, 18, and in that range right there, watching these crazy shows and going, oh, that is awesome. And now they're telling everybody already, guys, we're doing this again. You know what I mean? And everybody's going, oh, that's where I want to go. I want to march. I want to march the last show of that thing. And I think you're going to have again
a finale show. Like, how often are you going to march a finale show? That's not a thing that really like happens that much. That's awesome.
It's
right?
super cool, right? And it's such a neat idea. And they're doing it. They're marketing it the right way. So I think you're going to get a lot of better members. You're going to get a lot more talent that's going to go there first, right? Rather than, you know, maybe go someplace else. Like Stars or Colts, you know, some of the lower end chords. But you're also, you've got better staff. No, better staff is a rough word to use. They have newer staff that have come from better organizations, historically better organizations. And I have always said this is that not the most of the reason why, but a strong reason why some corps win out over other corps in the judging community is because they are people that know how to speak to judges correctly. Right.
Yeah, they know how to fight for the core and fight for their show.
Yes, exactly. You know, like I said this all the time, but back in the day, like you look at the Buccaneers before we became wildly successful, and we brought on a guy in 05 who was brand new that year who went in and just kicked in doors and started screaming at dudes in the right way. And then we had a pretty undeniably good show that year. I don't think anybody was going to beat us in 05, but we stayed in those upper ranges because that person continued to go in and they understood how to fight, not fight judges, but fight for what they were doing and explain to them why they were better than the person standing next to them, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you bring in better, and again, I say better staff, I don't mean that in a negative way towards anybody that was at the Troopers before that. When you bring in more seasoned staff where they understand how to talk to
they've got
judges,
that kind of experience,
and not only that too, the judges have the respect of those people already because they've been in upper organizations. I think that's one of the hugest reasons why Phantom has been doing so well because they took all that SCV staff.
Yep.
And that was SCV staff from the 2018 season, right? So they had won a championship. Then they go over here, and then it's the same thing. Like we know how to talk to staff, we know what to do, and not only that, there's some teaching, you know, stuff that's involved in that too. How to get kids to be better. But I think Troops come in 8th next year.
Yeah, I think that 7 to 10 region is where we're going to see the most like shake up. A lot of shake up.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if they keep moving up.
I think they're going to move up to 8th. I think they've become America's drum corps. And
they're back to being America's drum corps.
Woo! I do. I think that everybody is just loving. There's not a bad thing that's coming out of there right now, and even the stuff that was a negative, because they had a lot of like bad publicity about their color guard in 22, 23, that time frame. They were really bad. There was a lot of like just bad stuff going on in there, and that was kind of it's been erased by some of the good stuff. I think the staff and the administration has handled it correctly, and they've done all the things they're supposed to do, right? So I think they're gonna crest back up, which is also
moving
into things like that. The Cavaliers, I mean, Jesus.
I'm very curious to see what happens to the Cavaliers.
They have to completely. They have got to.
They got to do a big change.
I would love to say that they need to go back to like the Cavalier roots and start doing, but they did that 2 years ago and they were terrible at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I struggling.
They have to. I would say they'd have to move more towards the Cavaliers of the 2018 range. I think the last couple of years they tried to go back to like the 2000s. Right.
Yeah, and they just don't have the.
They don't have the talent for it.
They don't have the talent. They don't have the design. They don't have the structure for it anymore.
They absolutely don't. Right. So you've got to start looking at building a drum corps show that is a show. You know, I think because you can't be the classic Cavaliers right now because, like I said, I don't think you have the staff or the talent to really, that you're not drawing the talent for the kids to be able to understand how to produce that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And stay in the modern era because the last 3 years have felt like that for me. They felt like shows that they're trying to relive the glory days 20 years ago with the way that they're designing the shows, but also integrate this newer and they just don't have the right people to kind of make it work correctly.
Yeah. They need to find a design philosophy that like works for who's there and not who they're trying to emulate.
I also think that they're trying to do the same thing that I think SCV did in 19. They're trying to come up with some crazy banger to put them back where they were. But every year they've just been falling further and further, right? And they're just, it's like they're not looking at it and going, "Hey, we have to. Oh, okay, we're in 7th place. Let's try and build next year because we're only a 7th place core." I think they really thought they were going to design a show that was going to win next year. You know what I mean? Like, no, you know what? And they're treating members like we need to win right now. Like kind of you're talking about, you know, with Jack and the Scouts back in the day. Like they're just going, they're just murdering their members, and you're going, we have to win, we have to win, we have to win. You know, we got it. We are not the Cavaliers. This is not what we do. And you know, all this like, you know, big boistering and pounding on your chest from the staff. And then what that does is that just makes members not want to come back. You know, we need to look at that from great organizations that have faltered through those years. I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they realized it. I hope that they realize it this year. Yeah. And they come back and they go, all right, we can't keep falling. So let's not fall out of at a 12th place because they're in risk of that. Yep. You know, because PC's coming up and Knights are right there. Yeah. And Crossman's not going to be that bad again. I hope. Yeah. Jesus. You know, and
to talk about a 12th place score, I think Madison's staying in finals.
Yeah, I do too. I think they're going to come
they
back.
got enough momentum. They were still a pretty young core from what we heard from Carolina. It's like you said, very growth mindset core, a very like.
Yep. Take care of members.
Make a home, take care of the members, make them want to come back. Yep. Right? I'm sure they were one of the fan favorites this year.
Absolutely.
So of course people that were like, I know we got you know, bottom of finals, but like in terms of how much fun they probably had with the crowd, with performing their show and with the design and getting all the buzz and making it into finals, I'm sure they're gonna have a lot of retention. And I think they're gonna
People do not.
They're going to keep growing.
I think a lot of cores, especially some of the bigger cores, do not value what I call the military all the time, force multipliers, right? And those are the kids that you're marching with that are going out and grabbing other like-minded, because when you have friends with other people who are like-minded that you are, which means that you're going to bring like-minded people into an organization and then you're going to become successful. You know, I did that through all of my years when Reading wasn't winning. You know, it was like all these people like, you stay, you're my buddy, you're going to stay because we are like-minded and we're going to be great. You know, and we're
going to work well together and we're going to work towards the right thing.
Exactly, and that's what we did. You know, we work and you eventually work into a championship, right? So I think Madison has that vibe as far as I can tell, as far as talking and seeing what's going on from the outside and just Facebook stuff and everything else people are posting and whatnot. It seems like they had a really, really good time. If they can keep their design in the same feel, make it very Madison, I would love.
Which I think they've honestly been doing for the past few years. It's just this year they finally had the most success with it.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And like you said, they've been building. Right, it's a building thing, right? And now they have to just keep doing that. They have to sustain themselves. They have to make sure they don't go backwards. They only move forward. With everything that they've already achieved, you've got to maintain that and then add more. And that's always the hardest part. How do you continue member quality while pushing your members harder? Right? How does that work? Because that's difficult sometimes, right? It's difficult to go, hey, we want you guys to work harder, or work harder. Well, why weren't you working hard enough last year? Well, no, this is next year. Now we gotta keep going, right?
Yeah.
And that's tough. That's a hard thing to drive forward and continue with over the years. So I hope Madison comes out with another. Madison is like the bottom fandom for me. They were like my favorite core in the bottom six, and Phantom was one of my
Phantom.
favorite cores in the top six, right? And they
just
were
a fun
drum corps show.
Yeah. Fun drum corps feeling while still being modern show. Like really just nailing the design.
They're
staying in.
They felt very much like Mandarins did for me in 2023.
Yeah.
It was just very like, it was a little simplistic. It was a great show.
Very easy to get.
Wasn't quite as great as Mandarin's show because I think they had a little bit more there from a design concept.
Mandarins had and
they had the gates spinning
sort of
around, and like
show.
it was just a really, really good show from a design standpoint. But it had all the same like general elements. It was like pretty easy book. It was doable, but also challenging,
also very effective.
Lots of fun. You know, but a lot of not weak moments, but they were like, the tubas were sitting up on those props for like an entire number. Dude, I could sit and play for 2 minutes of my show. That sounds friggin' awesome,
Yeah.
So, but it worked, and that's how you that's the kind of things that they'll improve on in their design concept that they're not going to get docked on for points, as you go forward. So I can see them moving into 11, and honestly, depending on what Cavaliers do, I can see them bump it down to 12. Or maybe even out because PC has been coming up.
PC or Knights or someone wants to
Knights they're an outlier always, man. Sometimes they're like in 11th place, sometimes they're in 17th.
I really liked Knights show last year. I think it's way better than either of the previous 2 years. And yet I got 14th just because it was a very strong year overall for drum corps.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if PC really pushes for their first ever finals finish.
They've never been in finals before?
I don't think they've ever been in finals before.
I mean, that'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. I'd love to see that. It's hard. We say this all the time. Like, who do you want to see leave? I know
it's the tough part.
But you want to see people come up and be successful. But who do you see who falls out?
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's hard to say. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm excited for.
I would love to see Knights and PC push for that final game and finals again, just to make it right. I liked the sort of bloodbath that there was in that 11th to 14th spot, of just duking it out. Right.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to finish up this thing. Wild predictions. Let's go 1st to 12. What's your number?
In terms of order?
Yeah.
Jeez.
You got to do it. Let's go.
Okay.
Right,
I'm just going to go off feel. I'm just going to go off feel.
Hold on. We'll do it at a time. We'll both go at the same time. Okay.
All right. So position one.
Position
I
one.
have to remember what I say and what you say.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it is.
Am I going for realist or what I feel just a random gut feeling?
Just gut feeling. Just go gut. Just go
Boston.
Gut. Oh, man, I was going to say Boston too. All right. Okay. Boston. All right. Yeah.
You were here first. Good job, Boston. We're proud of you.
Yeah. Good job.
All right. Boston.
And they win guard and horns next year.
Guard and probably guard. I'm saying I think they would win a Sanford before.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So second place.
Second place. Coats.
Yeah. This one's hard.
Coats.
I want it to be Coats, but I feel like Blue Devils will fight to stay in that top.
Yep.
In the top two.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Devils.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Devils go back to winning Vig again.
Okay. All right. I think Devil. I don't think Bluecoats win anything. I think they're in second place with.
I think
maybe,
they might.
Maybe visual. I can see them winning visual.
I can
next
see them
year.
winning visual again. Their visual program is crazy. Was crazy good this year. One of the best visual programs I've seen on display.
So third place, Blue Devils. I put Blue Devils in third.
You think? Who's winning GE?
Boston.
I think Boston's got a good shot.
I think Boston sweeps a lot next year.
Honestly, I would almost say the next new caption award that Boston wins, if they continue on the path that they've done, they're more likely to win GE overall. I think very good general effect.
Okay, so I got Blue Devils there. Who do you have in third?
I think Coats would be on.
So
I do not see them. I do not see them falling out of third. I really do not.
Phantom, number 4.
I can see Phantom. I can see Phantom staying top 4.
Yeah, I think they stay there.
I think so.
5.
SCV.
That's exactly what I was going to say. SCV.
I think they've got more momentum.
I think they climb up too.
Yeah.
Woo. Does that mean we're both crown at 6?
I think both crown at 6 probably.
Man, that's a wild prediction.
Because I don't think they're gonna. They don't got the momentum right now.
Yeah.
They've got to pull up out of the tailspin a little bit.
Tough one for me. Okay. All right. So.
And they're gonna say it. Do you think they're gonna get 6th and win the OT though?
Oh yeah.
I think.
Oh wait. And the OT? You mean Sanford?
No, the OT. 6th place Carolina Crown. We said.
Predicting. Interesting. I did say that, didn't I? Yes.
I think
I'm saying it because I think it's wild.
Instead of Because I think you said also Boston could be winning the Gimot this year.
Oh, I did say that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I take it back. I don't think Crown. If I'm putting Crown at 6 because I'm just making it up.
That would be a hard sell.
That's a hard sell. Yeah.
I think in terms of who I think is going to win the Yacht this year, I would not be surprised if Devils goes back to winning the Yacht. They've just got a really strong. They've always got a strong brass program.
Yeah. All right. All right. So we're at 6.
Okay. Now the real.
Now it gets interesting.
Okay.
No, wait. No.
So current.
No.
Yeah, we're at 7th.
No, you were 7th.
So current. I'm trying to remember what current 7th is. So we have current year or this previous season. We had Mandarins, Stars, Colts, Troopers, Cavaliers.
Are you ready? I'm going Colts in 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think you're gonna jump up 2 spots?
Mm-hmm. I think they are.
I don't know. I think Stars would jump up to 7th.
Okay.
Before.
Okay.
Even then, are they gonna lap Mandarins though?
Yeah, that's the question you have to answer for yourself.
Just to shake things up, I actually think Mandarins has a good shot at just maintaining 7th.
Okay. All right.
I think they showed a pretty strong. They did a pretty strong showing this year.
All right. So 8th place. I'm going Mandarins in 8th place.
I think so. I don't think they're gonna drop that much.
No, I don't think so well either.
Troopers. Let's just throw it out there. Yeah.
I was almost going to say Troopers, but it's a good move because I'm putting Troopers in 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Troopers is going to get there, and I think they're as usual. The GE score is going to outplace.
Okay.
Is going to outpace their placement.
Yeah. Okay.
And then for me, I think Stars could grow. I'm not saying that I think they're going to drop, but I would put Colts above Stars probably in my 9th. Right, Colts and then Stars.
Gotcha. Right, because you went Mandarins,
Troopers,
and
Colts.
Then Colts. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. I'm going. I did
Troopers in 9th. You said,
yeah, Troopers in 9th. Yep, 10th place. That's where I put Stars at.
Stars as well.
Yeah.
So we both got Stars in 10th.
Yeah.
We love you with Stars. We love to see you prove us wrong.
Yeah.
But this is wild speculation.
All right, it's wild speculation. Because they just have a way of going up and down wildly.
Yeah. I think
10.
No, we're in 10th. We just said. I think we both said 10th Stars.
Oh yeah.
11th Madison.
I was going to say Madison
they're going to climb a little bit.
And then 12th. You ready?
Yeah.
PC.
I'm tempted to say PC as well.
Yeah.
I think Pat Kress is still hovering. I think they could push for it just to keep it a different answer. I'm gonna say this might be biased. I hope I want Knights to make it back into finals.
All right.
And boot Cavies out. I think PC has a good shot. I think Crossman might climb, but I think they just have too many issues to be working through to make it back into finals next year.
Yeah.
I think they just barely bump Cavies out to 13th.
So you think Cabbies go to 13th? I think Cabbies go to 14th.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think
there's
Knights,
a chance.
And I think Knights come up to 13th. I think Knights go to 13. Cabbies go down to 14.
I think it's possible. Yeah. I mean, we've seen with Madison Scouts, we saw. When you start struggling, you start losing that momentum. Even very storied cores can drop multiple placements a year.
All right. So there you go. You heard it first here.
You heard
wild
it first.
Predictions.
The top 14.
Wild predictions.
So I said.
Go ahead. Run down your 10.
I said Boston, Devils, Coats, Phantom, SCV, Crown. And I said I think Mandarins, Troopers, Blue Stars, Madison, Knights.
You missed
that was my order.
Yeah,
I think that was all of them.
So I was Bluecoats.
I think didn't you put Boston?
Sorry, Boston. Yeah. I'm sorry, Boston, Bluecoats, Blue Devils back in 3rd. Phantom, SCV, Crown.
Yeah, our 4 to 6s are similar.
The same, right? And then I went Colts, then Mandarins.
Colts in 7th, Mandarins.
Yeah, Mandarins 8th. 9th place.
Troopers, 9th.
Troopers, right? Yep. 10th was Star. And then I went, who are my last 2?
I think 11th Madison is what you said.
Oh, yeah. I said Madison in 11th and then PC. Pacific Crest coming up and getting into it.
Yeah.
I love to see it. So there you go, everybody. There's our insane predictions.
Yeah, are based on
merited
vibes
on nothing
only.
Based on just why not? Because it's fun to think about stuff
we're
like this.
We're extrapolating data that we could not possibly actually know.
Right. We're extrapolating data because you know how good we are at data.
Yeah, and you know how consistent trends in drum corps are.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, I think that wraps it up for the show for today. And we'll keep it under 2.5 hours on like the last episode. And we appreciate you guys coming and staying out, checking everything out.
I would say, throw down in the comments your top 12 predictions or your caption winning predictions, right? Caption trophy
that sounds good.
Predictions.
Yep. Yeah. Right. We would love to see that. And here's the thing. That's a record. That's a record of your prediction.
Exactly. We can go back. We can go back through the comments at the end of next year and give like a prize out to whoever.
Let's just going to say whoever is closest to being correct.
We'll give you some
in
free
the
merch
comments.
or something.
I'll send you a coffee mug, a T-shirt, and some stickers if we have it. Yeah, because we should have stuff like that by then. Yeah. So check it out. See what's going on. And we will we'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us once again, and be on the lookout for more. All right, off cycle.